Welcome viewers to Media Track, the news analysis program on CCR TV. I'm Devika Sequeira and with me is my colleague
Ashley Do Rosario.
Well, Ashley, some of the biggest stories of the past week, one of the most disturbing as far as, news goes is the Chief Minister's admission that unemployment is rising in Goa and he needs to study the trend. On the other hand, we have this other report which says that the government is setting up a MMC, that is a Model Career Center to advise young people how to go about getting jobs, and we have 1 lakh job seekers registered with the Employment Exchange. On the other hand, as I was telling you, we also have the industry saying that there is too much red tape and they cannot hire and fire, staff as is needed to tide over this 25%. They want fees, existing fees to be reduced by 25% for them to set up new industry. So where do we exactly stand?
Industry will always be wanting looser labor laws,
right?
Which some states have adopted post the pandemic, and there's a huge outcry nationally. Like for example, UP, Gujarat have diluted existing labor laws.
Yeah.
In fact, Gujarat, the issue landed up in the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has struck down some of these changes,
okay.
Has reversed some of these changes. As far as unemployment is concerned, it was a problem in Goa even before the pandemic. After the pandemic, once the pandemic started playing out in March, we had a lot of industries shutting down. We had a lot of businesses, including in the media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People just losing jobs
overnight.
Yeah.
So it's a catch-22 situation from both sides. Even from the employees side as well as from the employer's side.
Yeah.
So that's how it stands, and
Ashley, I've seen these stories about people, especially seafarers and all who are returning and they are desperate for work. Now some of them have taken, I'm reading to you a story from the Times of India, so they are taking to animal farming, and there is also a story in another local paper, Navin Times, which talks of paddy cultivation being on a revival in Dharbandora. And of course, there is the story of Sanjtevan, where the parish priest has helped set up.
Yeah.
So, do you think that, from, being hit by the slowdown in the mining industry, more than a slowdown, it's practically a freeze on the mining industry. Yeah. People have had to look for alternatives, and cultivation and farming and all seems to be a good way to...
Yes, it was picking up, ever since mining came to a grinding halt in 2017-18.
Yeah.
And people have gone into commercial farming.
Yeah.
In many areas, but it is not as organized as one would want it to be. Government support is again, as good as non-existent.
Right.
You have those existing schemes from the agriculture department, but delivery is very poor. Like for example, the Santistev experiment. Let us take the example of the Santistev experiment, where the entire village came together. They kind of formed a farmers club. They mapped the ownership of the cultivable land, and they did some sort of a community. A different kind of a model of community farming.
Yeah.
They did it the first year, they succeeded.
Okay.
They kind of offset the expenditure and made a 3-4 lakh kind of a profit.
Yeah.
The next year is when they suffered a huge loss.
Oh,
when you had this flooding that happened last year.
Oh, okay.
So they lost almost 70% of their crop.
I see.
And they did a loss of about 10 to 12 lakhs
Yeah.
in one single go.
Okay.
And you had these politicians, the chief minister, the agriculture director, the collector North Goa going there, doing visits,
Yeah.
doing inspections and saying that they would be compensated.
Right.
But more than a year later, not a penny of compensation has reached them.
Yeah.
So and farming, these guys don't have the kind of capital to bear losses for a year, 2 years, 2 consecutive seasons of losses, and they are down in the dumps.
Yeah.
So government support, when it is most required, has to come.
Yeah. So we are looking at the alternatives, or meaning actually the backbones of Goa's economy, as they call them. One is obviously mining, which one keeps reading these headlines: crucial meet next week over mining resumption. Then there is the chief minister is going to chair this crucial meeting. The chief minister is supposed to have gone to Delhi, had a meeting with the prime minister, and some wheels are believed to have been set in motion. One doesn't know how true this is. There is also the talk of huge revival now in the tourism industry. But the hoteliers themselves are rejecting the chief minister's claim of 80% occupancy. And they claim that occupancy is just 4%, and yet here we are opening up everything in the last phase of the lockdowns. I mean, everything is being reopened. Cinema halls are being reopened. 50%. You're allowed to allow 50%. Also, boat cruises are opening. So, on the mining issue, Ashley, where do we stand? Because I recall reading, this report on the Goa Foundation's petition, and one mining company has been allowed to lift the rejects that were lying there for quite a long time.
Devika, it's not the rejects. It's when mining came to a halt.
Okay.
In March 2018.
Yeah.
There was already ore that was extracted. Quite a chunk of ore that was extracted, which the chief minister today is claiming is in the region of 4 million tons.
Okay.
Which has been already royalty paid.
Yeah.
But the Supreme Court order was so strict that it said not even transportation of that is going to be allowed.
Yeah.
So what this company has done is it went to the Supreme Court with a plea that they should be permitted to transport the iron ore that is extracted and royalty paid already.
Yeah.
So this order, which has come last week or earlier this week, permits not just that company but all companies that have within their lease areas ore that is already extracted and royalty paid to transport the ore.
Yeah. Now, Ashley, I was looking at another story that is very significant. It was in the Times of India. It talks about this centre, ticking off the Goa government for being slow, a laggard in the smart city project. Now, the centre has given the Goa government over 196 crores has been released by the centre, but the Goa government hasn't matched this with its own funds. And they say that Goa hasn't been implementing the smart city project properly, and it could even lose that status, the smart city status. Now, just a few facts before I put it to you for discussion, Ashley. So the smart city mission has run afoul of several audit violations. Look at the amount of money it is getting, and it has violated all these audits. In a complete violation of the norms, the state government has allowed the IPSCDL, that is Imagine Panjim Smart City Development Corporation.
Yeah.
It has allowed them to function without a board for over a year, and the tenure of the chief executive officer Chowdhury expired in July of last year. So he's been functioning with no overseeing body, and he's been spending money. No one knows where this special vehicle project has been headed. all we see for it is that one project where they landscaped the Miramar beach. That is all we have seen so far. And now they have some, the Panjim MLA has been appointed to the board and the Panjim mayor. You recall there was this tussle between them earlier. So how are we going to get out of this mess?
Devika, this is a year and a half old story.
Yeah.
In fact, the headline says the center rebukes
Yeah.
Goa for being laggard
Yeah.
on this thing, but the center itself has been laggard in rebuking Goa.
Yeah.
Because this 196 crores that was released to IPSCDL
Yeah.
was released more than 2 years ago.
Okay.
Okay, this was the money lying with IPCDL 2 years ago. But the problem in Goa's smart city, the Panjim Smart City project,
Yeah.
is the only project among 40 in the country
Yeah.
which have not taken into the RADA, the local body,
Yes.
the CCP.
Right,
It
right.
has kept CCP exclusively out of the smart city plan.
Yeah.
How can that be? Because the CCP is in control of the city,
That's right.
and you suddenly superimpose this special vehicle called IPSCDL
Yeah.
and try to superimpose a smart city plan.
Yeah.
It's just not workable.
Yeah.
That was basically the crux of the tussle between the local Panjim MLA and the smart city corporation.
Yeah.
Now they have not sorted that problem out by putting the Panjim MLA and the mayor on the board,
Yes.
because the corporation as a corporate body is not part of it.
Okay.
You just have two individuals there. It's not going to work.
Yeah.
There has to be a structural change. There has to be a structural change where this special vehicle is made part of the CCP.
Okay.
It has to be done that way. Otherwise, things are not going to happen on the ground, and then you are going to implement these individual projects like what they are doing right now, the Miramar landscaping,
Yeah.
and then you have a few electrical work being done in Ribandar.
Yeah.
So it's going to be patchwork.
Yeah.
You can't build a smart city by doing patchwork.
Right. Actually, let's move to the more interesting debate on politics.
Yeah.
There's a lot of politics happening these days because obviously we are just a year away, year and few months,
year and a half
3
away,
months
yeah. Year
away
and 5 months, yeah.
Yeah, to the next election.
Yeah.
And there were these lot of snippets about politics in your paper, which I read on Saturday. So it's asking where is Girish Chodankar of the Congress party going to contest from? And the other story was the cold test for Churchill. So let's take two of these and see what your reaction to that is. Where do you think Girish is even going to contest?
Devika, on the surface, it looks like Girish is the main player in the Congress setup.
Yeah.
But below the surface, there's a lot of churning happening in the Congress.
Okay.
Ever since Luisín Falero has
Stepped away.
from those national level responsibilities that he had.
Yeah.
He's no longer a part of the Congress working committee now.
Yeah.
He does not have the role of the National General Secretary anymore.
Yeah.
So he is looking for a bigger role for him in the local politics.
Okay.
And you have resistance to that from the Digambar Kamath faction coming in.
So you think that Luisín will take over the presidentship of the Congress closer to the election?
I'm not sure whether he's keen on taking over the presidentship, because he did that the last time and he lost out in the end game.
Okay.
I'm not sure what he's up to, but he's clearly trying to claw his way in in the local setup, and there's a kind of churning happening below the surface.
Okay.
I think the Congress is looking to replace Girish.
Oh.
I think so.
Okay.
I'm not sure about it. I've not spoken to the people directly.
There was also another tangential angle to this. I've been hearing from the grapevine. One is that there is resistance from the Girish camp to having some kind of deal with the Goa Forward Party, which is obviously wanting a deal with the Congress after, you know, all being now, of course, you have Vijay Sardesai in the shadows, but he is quite active as an opposition MLA.
Yeah.
So do you think that there is a possibility of that kind of alliance ever happening now between the Goa Forward and Congress?
The Goa Forward would love to have that kind of a deal.
Yes, and they have Digambar Kamath who is batting for them.
I'm not sure whether Digambar is batting for them, or whether Digambar is, posturing.
Okay.
But the problem for Vijay Sardesai
Yeah.
and the Goa Forward
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
that they have lost credibility.
Right.
They have lost credibility for the simple reason that soon after the elections,
Yeah.
they jumped to the opposite side.
Yeah.
They jumped to the opposite side, and there was this sense of kind of a betrayal within the constituency,
Yes.
within that constituency
Right.
that voted for these
Yeah.
three MLAs of
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
of the
Goa
Forward.
Right, right.
Now, 2.5 years later, it's not that they, out of choice, went back to the side that they won the elections from, but they were forced out.
Yes.
They were ejected from the
Yeah.
from
And also, actually, one thing Sardesai has not made clear is where does he stand vis-a-vis the NDA, because he still keeps praising
Exactly.
the Prime
So
Minister
he's-
Modi, and he only says he's against the Chief Minister, but that is obviously only because he got kicked out by the Chief Minister, no other reason.
So he's not very clear on that, but at the same time he knows that an electoral battle. See, Vijay is a player.
Yes,
okay?
absolutely.
He is a player. He knows the pulse. He knows what is what. He knows what can go wrong, what can go right.
Right.
So he knows right now that if he does not mend,
Yeah.
if he does not mend that sense of betrayal that
Yeah.
the people, that the constituency are feeling about
Yeah.
him and his party,
Yeah.
then he is in trouble in the electoral battle.
Right.
So he is looking for a legitimacy,
Yes.
for an anti-BJP legitimacy, which he still does not have.
Exactly.
Okay, so that is why he's so keen on some kind of opposition unity, tying up with the Congress. He's been talking about an opposition unity
Yeah.
right now. So and at the same time, I don't think he is averse to make deals with any side.
Exactly.
Actually,
where does Churchill fit into this whole, political mix? Where does he stand? His problem currently is that he has to take a stand on the coal issue. The people who are in Varka, who are opposing the double tracking of the railway line. Then there is also the Mole issue. He has not made a statement, and he's playing, sort of coy, and he at the same time he supports the government. One doesn't know why. I presume it has to do something with him having gone to jail, if you recall, for a few months. His cases, which the center can come down on him at any time. And that is one handle, the BJP has used very easily and roughly on its opponents, political opponents. So where does Churchill stand in this whole mix?
See, Churchill, Devika, this is the second time that he's in this kind of a dilemma.
Yeah.
The last time he was in this dilemma, he stuck to supporting the Parrikar government, in this similar coy fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah. This time, of course, it has got something to do with his criminal cases and whatever, but it also has got to do with the largesse that he receives from the government, from the football club that he runs.
Okay.
This is something that was raised
Yeah.
recently, or 2-3 months ago,
Yeah.
by Rohan Kaunte and Vijay Sardesai,
Yeah.
in some kind of a jostling to try and get Churchill on their side.
Okay.
Some time back. So Churchill, I don't know whether he has the drive in him to go for yet another election, or he's going to draft his daughter or his son into that Benoli seat.
Yeah.
which he tried in the 2012 election.
Right.
You know, he tried drafting his daughter into the Banauli seat, but it didn't work.
Well, that was the year, Ashley, if you recall, there wasn't only his daughter, there was his brother, Joachim Aldermau,
and there was
Joachim's son, Yuri, who was contesting on an NCP ticket.
Yes.
Now, you know, I've been reading up about Joachim being a likely re-entry into the Congress. One doesn't know what has happened to Yuri, but Valanka's political career, I think, has been, you know, virtually stuck only to the football, running the football club. But what the Aldermau family has been dominating politics for years, to some extent, not quite dominating,
Yeah.
but they've been in the political, you know, arena for so many years. And it's quite amazing that they're still there,
And so
that they are still an alternative for some people. Isn't that so?
Yeah, Devika, he's a phenomenon. There's no doubt about it. Like 10-15 years ago, Churchill was
A big
a
role
big
player.
role player,
Right.
a political force. Like if you remember when he took over the United Goans Democratic Party,
Yeah,
he actually won the South Goa seat, defeating an iconic candidate like Eduard Falero,
right.
you know, in 1996.
Yeah.
So it's not something that you can just brush aside in the political
yeah,
setup. So yes, in a sense, the Aldermau clan from Banauli, from Varka, has had its indelible mark on Goa's politics, on Salset's politics,
Yeah.
and they are hanging on.
Yeah.
I think right now they have to reinvent themselves
Yeah.
if they have to play any further role in politics.
Yeah.
And one way which they are looking at reinventing themselves is passing on the baton to the next generation.
Yes.
You know, like you said, you've heard of reports that Joachim's re-entry into the Congress is imminent, but I think rather than Joachim,
his son probably.
yes, it's Yuri that even Joachim is looking at
Yeah,
because
that's right.
you know, Joachim has not been keeping good health
Okay.
in the last couple of years.
Okay.
So that's what I think they are going to reinvent themselves by pushing in the next generation.
Yeah.
That's my reading of the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, Ashley, we have to move to the, you know, coronavirus story, and you have Dr. Bandekar, who is in charge of GMC, saying that we have not yet hit a peak in Goa, and we have to wait till December, and the numbers are still high. We have the highest number of deaths in terms of ratio to population in the country, and that has been something to really worry about. At the same time, we keep hearing different stories. Now, you recall the government has withdrawn the proposal to allow you to use the government insurance to private hospitals. Now that there is a petition in the High Court to challenge the government on that. So where do we stand exactly?
Devika, we are back to square one. We
Yeah.
are back to the start of the pandemic right now.
Okay.
Okay. We have the lockdown totally open now. No restrictions whatsoever
Right.
in any sector except
Yeah.
for those, 50% in cinema halls.
Yeah.
Those to ensure physical distancing.
Yeah.
So we are back to square one, and we are not yet in
Out of the woods.
out of the
at
woods,
all.
or apart from
Exactly.
being out of the woods, we are
Yeah.
our medical infrastructure system is not in the does not have the situation in its grip.
No.
You know,
We are still playing catch up. You
Yes,
see, after
yes,
6 months, we are
yes,
still playing
yes.
catch up with the system.
And-
So how do we get past this? Unless people have to just accept that this is the reality, and we have to just stay at home more and go out less. And
yeah, Devika, I think each one will have to be protective of their own safety.
Right.
In fact, the Chief Minister yesterday made this statement, day before yesterday made this statement that, we will have to live with COVID.
Yeah.
for the next 2-3 months.
Yeah.
Things will get clearer from January onwards.
Right.
That kind of talk.
Yeah.
You know, so it's fatigue.
Yeah.
I think it's fatigue of the whole pandemic situation
Yeah.
that is setting in,
Yeah.
which is a dangerous trend, and it has been a dangerous trend all over the world.
Right.
You know, the UK got fatigued by it, opened up.
Yeah.
They were hit by a second wave which was stronger than the first.
Right.
All countries that fell for this fatigue and changed their track
Yeah.
did face huge problems. And so, as I said, we are back to square one. We are
Exactly.
back to the place where we started off in
Yeah,
March, April.
and also to add to the bad news, we have a statement from the World Health Organization which says, it's there in your newspaper's headlines on Saturday, Remdesivir and 3 other drugs that they've been using on patients are actually ineffective. So we are still groping in the dark, and unfortunately that will be the reality for us for the next 5 to 6 months, I presume. On that note, we have to end. We've run out of time. Thank you so much for watching.